Hey guys, welcome back. On today's episode, we're going to take a look at our edit page and also learn how to do file uploads because we want to be able to upload our profile image. So let's get started. Now, first thing I would like to do is create a link for this username. When we click on it, I want to be directed to that user's profile page. And at the top of the page, we had this like profile link, which also doesn't work. So let's go ahead and fix those first. And I'm going to first define a new route named profile. And I'm going to say route get profile. And I'm going to basically have it go to our user controller to a method named profile, right? Very simple stuff. And I'm also going to give it the auth middleware and also give it the name profile so we can easily access it in our Blade file. So let's go ahead and find our nav. And let me close all of these so you guys can see better. This is where the profile is. Now, right now, the route is hard-coded. I always like to use this route here. So if we decide to change the URL later on in our route file, it will be automatically reflected on our page navigation links. So it's going to be profile. And I'm also going to do the same for the registration and login. These have been like this since like 10 episodes ago. So let's go ahead and update these as well. And this one's going to be route login. Okay, so let's go test this out, see everything works. Yep. Now we are getting an error. Obviously, profile does not exist. I'll implement that in a second. So let's go ahead and open up our user controller. And down here, I'm going to define this new function or new route. So we're going to say public profile. And we can go ahead and, obviously return the blade or whatever. But what we can do is the simplest way is we can actually just return this show page, right? And pass it in the logged in user. So I can say return this dot show, and then obviously this show accepts a user. So I can say auth user. So I can get the logged in user and pass it into our show method, right? And of course it accepts a logged in user. So let's go ahead and test the profile link again. And now it is working. All right, very good. And last thing, I think we need to also fix a link in these cards. So I'll find idea card. And I need to see where we have the user link. I think it's over here, right? Yeah. So I'll just replace this with route users.show and then pass in idea user ID. Okay. And that should get the job done. Let's do a quick reload. Let's check it out. And yeah, it is working. Okay, good guys. So now that we have done that, we can actually go ahead and focus on our edit page. So before we implement the edit page, we actually need to update our database and add two new columns. The first one is the bio, and the second one is our image, since we don't have those. So let's go ahead and create the migration for that. I'll open up the terminal, and to create a new migration, as always, we can say PHP artisan make migration, and then I'm going to name it add bio and image to users. And Laravel will go ahead and create that for us. Now, Laravel is very smart. It actually detected that we had users at the end, and it automatically detected which table we wanted to edit. But in case it didn't, for you, you can just manually add users here. So now, whatever we define between these anonymous function or disclosure, whatever columns we define will be added to our database, right? So that's how it works. So here I can say table.string and create our image. And I also will give it this nullable so it can be a null. And I'll do the exact same thing for our bio, actually. Okay. And in our down function, in order to be able to roll back, we need to actually drop these columns, right? In case you want to return that to the previous state of our database. So I can say table.drop column. There's a method on it called drop column. And as the name suggests, it just drops it. So we can say image, and I'll do the exact same thing for bio as well. So now that we have done that, guys, we can go ahead and say PHP artisan migrate, and it will go ahead and migrate it for us. Good. The last step we need to do for our user model is actually update our fillable property. So we can mass assign these two. So I'm going to go ahead and add bio and image here as well. Okay, so this is very important. Otherwise, we won't be able to mass assign these when we're updating our user. Okay, good. So now that we have done that, what is remaining is we need kind of add an input here so we can upload the files, right? And then create a form submission to our backend, right? So let's go ahead and do that as well. It should be relatively easy to do, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and open our user card, right? And so first thing, all of our inputs don't have a name, so I'll give this one a name user. And we also need to give it the error validation errors. It doesn't have any, so we can't see any validation errors. So I'm going to say this one should be name, not user, name. And for the validation error, I'll just give it a simple span. And maybe for the classes, we can say text danger fs6. That's like the smallest text you can use in Bootstrap. And I'll copy this so we can also add it for our text area. Oh, we already have it for the text area. Okay. So we don't need to worry about that. But above this text area, I'm going to go ahead and add another div. And basically in this div, I'm going to create an input. It's going to be type file. I'll give it the name image. And for styling, I'll also give it a class of form control. This is kind of the Bootstrap input class. Now let's take a look at it. It looks okay. And above it, I'll also add a label. And I'm going to say profile picture. Now let's take a look. It looks okay. Let's add some margin to fix the spacing. So I'll add it to the div and I say margin top 5 or 4. Okay, looks good. So one more issue we have is I do not want to see this when we are actually on the view page. So I'll have to go ahead and only show it on the edit page. And for simplicity, I'll go ahead and I'll just copy this editing here that we have. And now I'm kind of regretting actually not having these into two separate files, not gonna lie. So it's getting a bit crowded. So what I can do is we can technically separate these into two separate files. And I think it's better off if we do that because this file is getting quite big. So I'll create a new file inside our shared and I'm going to say user edit card.php.blade.php. And we now need to kind of fix these two together. Okay, so I'm going to start off by basically copying our user card, going inside edit user card and pasting it here. And inside here, I'm going to remove anything that's related to editing. So I'll remove this, I'll remove this. It's because it's kind of looking ugly. We have a bunch of if statements all over the place. So I'll do that. I'll get rid of, I guess we can keep this. This one is okay. And we can get rid of this as well. Now let's see if it looks okay. Yeah, it looks okay. Obviously for the edit box, I'll do the opposite. I'll remove everything that's not editing related, right? So the else statements. Now I'm going to also remove the if itself. This one should be here. This one we do need, but I'll just remove the if statement. Obviously we know we are editing. Same for this one. And I'll do the exact same here as well. Okay. Good. Now we need to open up our show page. User show page. Where is it? Users show. And while we're at it, I guess let's go ahead and create our edit.blade.php. And I'll copy this inside here. And instead of user card, I'm going to say user edit card. Our last step is we need to update our controller. So I'm going to say user controller. And sorry guys for the confusion. I probably should have done that earlier on. I thought it would be a bit shorter, but it's going to look quite confusing for, I think, some of you guys following. Okay, so our edit page looks nice. If we go back, it also looks nice. Okay, so it is working. One more thing we need to do is once we go in the edit page, I want to change this edit to view so we can go back to the view page. So I'll find this button here, user edit card. And instead of this edit, I'll say view and I'll replace this edit to show. And I believe you're now good to go. So I'll close the sidebar, I'll close user card and edit. And if we reload, we can go back and forth. And okay, now it looks nice. And it's a bit better as well. We don't have too many if statements. Okay, guys, so now that we have our input, we can add its validation as well under it. And last thing we need to do is I'm going to close all the divs. We need a form around it so we can submit the form. And this one, I'll create a form. I'll wrap it at the end. And the action, we're going to submit it to route users.update. And we need to pass in the ID of the user we are updating. For the method, this one is going to be a post method. And I think that's all. No, also, because we are doing file upload, we also need to say this is a multimedia form, right? So I'm going to say encode type, and I'm going to say multi-part form data. And I think that's it. And last but not least, as always, we need the CSRF token. And because we are using RESTful APIs, we need to also give it the method put. And now I think we're officially done. I don't think there is anything left. Maybe, yeah, I think that's all, right? Let's go ahead and test this out. Let's see if it works. I'll go to edit. I'll type some stuff in. And yeah, okay, it is working. Good. Very good. So now we can actually go ahead and write the logic for updating it. So as always, we always start off by just validating stuff. So I'm going to say validated request. Validate. Simple stuff. We have done this like 5 times already. So we need to validate name. We need to validate bio, and we also need to validate image. Okay. Now for the name, I'm going to copy it from our auth controller because we already have defined it there. So I'll do that. And for bio, I'll kind of make it identical. Maybe I make it minimum of 1 characters and the maximum of 255. And for our images, Laravel actually has an image validation rule. So I can just say image, and it will go ahead and make sure it's a valid image format. So like JPEG, JPG, PNG, WebP, I think SVG, and even I think GIFs are supported. And now that we have done our validation, have I made a typo? Request. I think so, yeah. Now that we have done the validation, we can go ahead, get our user updated with the validated stuff, and then afterwards redirect the user. Profile. Okay, we can redirect the user back to profile. Now we haven't really done anything regarding the image upload, so we're kind of missing that part. I'll come back and I'll fix that in a second. Okay, just want to make sure that you're able to actually update at least the name and the username, the bio. So I'm going to say ASDF, saying bio is required. So the reason is saying, okay, for the bio I want it to be optional, so maybe we can say nullable, and nullable just makes sure it is obviously, it's okay for it to be null. So let's try again. And yeah, our username changed. Now for the bio, I think it was updated, but we are not echoing it. I think that's the real issue. Right? Where is the text area? Yeah, so right now this one is empty. So we can say user bio. And I think on our user card, we have some hard-coded data, some lorem ipsum. So I can also replace this with bio. And let's take a look. I'll reload. It is working. Oh, it's empty right now, right? So let's put something in. And yeah, now it is working. Good. So now that we have done that, we can actually go ahead and focus on our file upload. Now, uploading a file is relatively easy with Laravel. What you can do is, first of all, make sure the file was uploaded, because right now, in our case, it is optional, right? So we can just use the request helper and say has image to validate it. Now, you could also remove this has, just pass it in inside request. I find that that's quite confusing for new people to the code base or people who are not used to Laravel. So I just always use this has because I think it's more descriptive. And then to store it, Laravel, this request actually does it for us. It has a helper method for handling file storage. So we can say image path equals to request. We can get the image, request image, and then we can call in a method on it called store. Okay, and I believe VS Code is having some struggles here. We can kind of fix that by doing it another way. We can say file, and you're just telling him, give me a file with the name image, and then call in a method called store on it. The old way will also work, but VS Code wasn't detecting it. And then here we can pass in the path of the file inside your storage folder. So by default, all of your files are uploaded inside, let me find it, storage, app. And then inside this app folder. So what I can here say is I want it to be inside profile, a folder name profile. Now it takes a second argument, and it's basically something known as a disk. So I'm going to say public disk. And if you see on the left, we actually have a folder named public. So this will go ahead and upload it inside public / profile / then your image name. And this public is known as something called disk. And in Laravel, disks are basically some set of predefined file upload places. So Laravel comes with a default disk called public, and as the name suggests, it's basically a place for you to upload anything that's publicly accessible on your app. And these disks are actually something you can define yourself. So if you go inside our config file system and you scroll down, there's a section called disks, and as you can see, we have a local, we have public. So public is basically the one I just referred to, and then we have S3. If you, for example, want to upload files to Amazon S3, you can do it like this. And this public is basically, it has, like, if you guys notice, I'm not going to go super in depth on it. I will do a separate video on file disks, but if you actually pay attention, there is a root and URL. Like root is where the file should be uploaded, right? And it's saying storage path. Storage path is basically referring to the storage folder inside app / public. And if you check here, we already have app public, right? So you can define these here and then reuse this disk multiple times, right? And this URL is what the user will go and type in to view the file. So users need to go inside your website domain / storage and then the file name, okay? But in our case, basically just typing this in would get the job done and save the file. Now, last but not least, we can go ahead and update this validated array and replace the image inside with the image path. Now, the reason we need to do this is once we do our validated image validation, this won't actually be stored on our server. It's going to be stored in a temporary folder where after some time it will be deleted. So we need to officially store it where we want, right? So whatever is inside this image, I can actually go ahead and DD it so you guys can see validated. It's going to be some temporary file location, so it's not going to be useful for us. And for testing purposes, I have actually prepared some files beforehand, so I'll upload it here. Let's click save. And you can see this image is like illuminate uploaded file. And if we open it up, like the path is inside some weird folder name, okay? So that's like a temporary file path. So that's why we need to replace this with the actual file location where we uploaded it. So I'll remove this DD, and that's all we need to do. So let's go ahead and see if it actually works. I'll reload the page. And I believe it worked. I could be wrong, but the reason is we're not rendering it yet. So let's go ahead and do the rendering. So we can go and find this part. This is where we are rendering the image. And we are using this default image. I kind of like it because by default, when we register, we don't have a profile image. I don't want to see, like, you can maybe upload a default avatar image. But what I'll do is I'll go inside our user model and I'm going to define a method. I'm going to say public function get image URL. And I'm kind of going to do a simple check, right? Say if we have the image, if this.image is defined, basically return it. I'll write the logic for that in a second. Else just return this, what is it? Yeah, this emoticon that we have defined, right? So this is some API that gives us some image, okay? If you like, you can maybe upload a default avatar image and give the route to that file instead. And I'm going to say this.name. And then here, instead of this, we can... So if you go ahead inside our file system, actually, if you see this URL is where users access the file, it has env app URL and then storage. So we need to add that storage prefix when we show it to our users. So here I'm going to have to say URL. I will give our app URL and then say storage. And then this.image. And that should be all we have to do. And we can then go ahead and reuse this get image URL everywhere we need it. So here I'm going to say user.getImage URL. I'll have to go ahead and do that on our user card as well. And you guys can go ahead and actually extract some of these that are like duplicated on multiple pages, such as this profile image if you would like. So it's not duplicated. To save time, I'm not going to be doing it, since it's quite repetitive. I'll replace it here as well. And I believe we are also doing it on our idea card, so I'll update it here as well. The only difference is it's going to be idea user.getImage URL, and also in the comments. So let's go comments box. Let's replace it here as well. And it should be comment user get image. And I believe that's all the different places we have used the image. So I reload, and we have an issue in the idea card. Let's see. Where is it? I can't actually see it, to be honest. Unexpected end of string. Oh, okay. I had forgotten to save the file. So we're not able to see the image. Now, there is a reason for that. So the first reason is, I mentioned that all of your files are uploaded inside this storage route, right? Storage folder, guys. And by default, if you have set up your web server properly, only the files inside its public folder are accessible, right? So your users can't actually access these files inside here. And you can see the file was actually successfully uploaded. So what we need to do is create something known as a symlink. And it's basically like a way of accessing a folder from another place. And that symlink will give us access to only this public folder, right? So our users can indirectly access it. And Laravel makes it easy to create that symlink. All you have to do is open up your terminal and type in PHP artisan storage link, hit enter, and it will tell us, okay, I symlink public storage with storage app public, right? So, and if we check on the left, there is a new folder inside here called storage with our uploaded files. And VS Code is giving us this arrow here. It says symbolic link. It's very small, guys. I'm sorry. I don't think I can zoom that in. But basically that indicates it's a symlink or symbolic link. And now if we reload, we can see our images, okay, just like that. So it is working very nicely. The last step, guys, I would like to cover is, in some cases, the user might upload a file and obviously they want to change it again, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and upload another image. I'll upload the same image again, actually, why not? So I'll click save. And it's still working, but if we go ahead inside our public profile, now we have two images. So our old image didn't get deleted. So we need to also write the logic for that. This is relatively easy to do, to delete images. Laravel has a facade, which is kind of like a helper class called storage, and it's inside illuminate support facades storage. There are multiple versions of this. I think there is a mock version, stuff like that. Make sure you're importing the right one. And then you can give it the disk you are working with. So in our case, it's going to be a static method, by the way. A disk, so we're working with the public disk, right? And then you can say delete and give it the file name. So I want to delete our previous image, right? So I can say user image. Since we still haven't updated, right? So this is going to be the old image. And if it's null, I think it will just ignore it and not delete the file. So let's go ahead and test this out. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and open our storage folder. Hopefully you guys can see. I have two files. Now, if we didn't have this deletion, after uploading a new image, we should have 3 files. But if it worked, we should have the remaining 2. So let's go ahead. I'll upload another file again. I'll select the image again. Cool bio. Let's save it. Obviously, the upload worked. I'll reload, and we only have 2 files. So that should go ahead and do that as well. And I believe that is all for today, guys. So hopefully you learned something new and you enjoyed what we did today. Most of the things we did, we already had done in kind of our update comment or update update ideas page. However, the file upload was new, and yeah, as we go along, some of the things we do is going to be a bit repetitive. That's just kind of part of that's the nature of building stuff. There's quite a lot of repetitive thing we need to do, but Laravel does automate a lot of it and makes it quite simple and quick to do. So that's all for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode. It's quite a long one. I think the longest episode we've done. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content, and I see you guys in the next episode. Have a great day. Bye.